Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, yesterday I watched closely the nomination hearing for Pete Hegseth. He's President Trump's nominee to be the Secretary of Defense. For the safety and security of our nation, Pete deserves a swift confirmation. I'm going to vote for him to be the next Secretary of Defense, and I believe that vote's going to happen soon. Look, he was very clear in the hearing yesterday. The incoming administration is going to refocus the Pentagon on American strength and on hard power, not a woke agenda, which is what we've seen for the last 4 years. To me, this is very welcome news, and I believe it is welcome news to Americans all across this country who are worried about the security of our nation and the strength of our nation. We have a significant problem in the military today. It's a problem with morale and a problem with recruitment. Pete Hegseth is the right person to address both of these issues and to make sure that we, America, have a military that is ready to fight. Pete served in combat at the height of the war on terror. He deployed overseas to Iraq, to Afghanistan, and to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. He's a decorated veteran. He has earned 2 Bronze Stars. He also earned the Combat Infantryman's Badge. When Pete's executive officer evaluated his performance in Iraq, the feedback was glowing. Pete, he said, was an incredibly talented, battle-proven leader. Incredibly talented, battle-proven leader. He, quote, always completed every mission with high standards, with minimal guidance or supervision. That's what you want. Now, I heard Senator Schumer ask on this floor, he said, why should Americans entrust Pete to lead our military? Well, Pete Hegseth answered that question yesterday. Senator Sheehy asked during the hearing, are you going to have the backs of the warfighters? To which our nominee said yes, he will have their backs. That's why Americans should trust Pete to lead our military. It's interesting to hear my Democrat colleagues dismiss Pete's years of military service. They sounded angry about his plan to restore American strength. They seemed frustrated that he clearly loves our country and wants to continue to serve. Democrats tried to turn yesterday's hearing into a kangaroo court. They claimed that Pete isn't qualified. So let's talk about his military experience. The Department of Defense is filled with people who have decades of experience working in the Pentagon. The Pentagon just failed its seventh consecutive audit. Think about that for a second. Each year, the American taxpayers send the Pentagon more than $850 billion, billion with a B. Yet the Pentagon can't pass a single audit. Look, sounds like we don't need more experience like that, Mr. President. We need a fresh set of eyes, a soldier, as Pete said himself, with dirt on his boots. Being Secretary of Defense isn't just about managing a bureaucracy. It's about making America's military the best and most lethal fighting force in the world. Pete's going to be a Secretary of Defense who respects the warfighter and who respects the taxpayer. He's a bold choice for the future of our military, a bold choice for the future of our nation, and the right choice to be Secretary of Defense. A Senate confirmation is not an easy process, and the Secretary of Defense is not an easy job. Yesterday, Pete gave strong answers to tough questions. He is confident and he is knowledgeable. He's ready to lead the Department of Defense. He knows the cost of war, he knows the price of weakness, and the true value and the valor of American soldiers. As Secretary of Defense, he's going to reestablish deterrence and rebuild our military. He's going to champion American service members and restore American military readiness. Pete's going to bring the Pentagon back to what its mission should be: lethality, accountability, transparency, merit. The focus is going to be on military readiness, not social experiments and partisan policies. America needs a strong Secretary of Defense now, immediately. Senate Republicans will get it done. Now, Mr. President, on a separate matter, today the Senate is considering amendments to the Laken Riley Act. The Laken Riley Act is actually bipartisan legislation. It is a life-saving bill. It's a life-saving bill that's going to lock up illegal immigrants and then deport them. Republicans are offering targeted amendments to make this bill even stronger. Senator Ernst has an amendment that would detain illegal immigrants who commit murder or cause serious bodily injury. Senator Cornyn has an amendment that will detain illegal immigrants who attack law enforcement officers. Those are the type of amendments that Republicans are discussing to strengthen the bill. I know there are some Democrats who are trying to undermine the bill. They want to replace it with thousands of pages of immigration reform. I've said this before, and it bears repeating, Republicans are not going to undermine or weaken this life-saving bill. The Laken Riley Act is not comprehensive immigration reform. It's a targeted piece of tough immigration enforcement. Republicans aren't going to trade American lives for amnesty. We will make the law that puts the safety of the American people first. That's what Americans voted for in November. Safety, security for our communities, for our citizens. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania was recently asked about the bipartisan Laken Riley Act. This is what he said. He said, pretend that you're in a parking lot in a Walmart in Scranton, Pennsylvania, as we've all been, as we're out traveling around the state in our own home states. He said, well, he says, I'm going to vote against a bill that allows people to deport people that were charged with a crime or have a criminal record. To me, I hope others have listened to Senator Fetterman's and hear those words and realize how ridiculous it sounds that anyone would vote against the Laken Riley Act. The Laken Riley Act deserves strong, targeted amendments and swift passage in this body and then signed into law by the President. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor. Suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.